Abai said, where did the Rambam live? Where was he born? Spain. Then he moved? Morocco. And from there? Eretz Yisrael. Just a few months, I think 5 months. And then? Egypt. For how long? He got there when he was 27, I believe. He died when he was 69. So it's 42 years that he lived in Egypt. Are you allowed to live in Egypt? Pasuk in our Pasha. The Pasuk clearly says, Lo tosifun lashuv b'derech hazeh od. You're not allowed to. In fact, the Rambam himself, in Hilchos Melachim, Perek Hey Halacha Zayin Paskins, one is not allowed to live in Egypt, and if he does, he transgresses 3 negative commandments in the Torah. 42 years. It's not like, passing through, in transit, he had a layover in Cairo. How is it possible? The Rambam doesn't fulfill the actual psak that he himself writes.
Did he write himself on his letters that he was translated?
Sefer Kafto V'Perach, one of the Rishonim, writes in Perek Hey that he heard from one of the descendants of the Rambam, Rav Shmuel, that the Rambam used to sign his own letters, Moshe ben Maimon, that's my name, that transgresses every single day 3 negative commandments of the Torah. Many don't agree to this, and they say it's impossible. They reject it. Can't be. Even Sapir, the Yishrei Lev, the Shvilei Das, the Yechave Das, they say impossible. The Rambam doesn't practice what he himself preaches. That doesn't make any sense. The Rambam says in Isur Doraisa, 3 Isurim, but he's going to do it and he's going to write it, and I'm the one who does it. How's it possible? Not shaykh. And therefore, we have 6 different terutzim. How is it possible for the Rambam to live in Egypt, even though he himself says you're not allowed to live in Egypt? Who are the ones that are giving these terutzim? Gedolei Olam. The Ritva, the Mordechai, the Shoelu Meshiv, the Smag, Rabbeinu Bechaye. Let's see. Some say the issue to live in Mitzrayim is only if you go down to Mitzrayim in the same way you came out. That's why in Parshas Masei the Torah details the 42 travels of Klal Yisrael. Who cares? Who cares what the itinerary was? They went from this place to this place to this place, because only if you go down in the same path, that's the issue. But if you take a flight from wherever you are to Egypt, that's not the issue. The Ritva says this. Yom Adaf Lamed Ches, the Re'em in our Parsha, and the Mordechai. These are Rishonim. Some say the only issue is when Klal Yisrael is here in Eretz Yisrael. Then you're not allowed to leave to go to Egypt and dwell there. But when we're in Galus, the entire Chutz La'aretz is one place, says the Ritva, and then there's no difference if you live in Egypt, in the States, in the 5 towns, or in Egypt, no difference. The Sifri writes that for business, you're allowed to go down to Egypt. And therefore there was no issue, because these people, Gedolei Olam, it wasn't just the Rambam. The Radbaz lived in Egypt, and many Gedolei Olam lived in Egypt. So if you're going there for business, in other words, you're not planning to stay there. Sometimes people will get, the Rambam got stuck there for 42 years. But maybe he didn't go there in order to settle the land and to stay there. So if you're going for business, says the Hisorus Tshuva, and that is the grandson of the Chassam Sofer in Yoredei Siman Kuf Pei Beis. If you're going there for business, there is no issue. The Ritva, again, in Yom Lamed Ches, he offers a few terutzim, and the Re'em, they both say, since Chazal tell us that Sancheriv came and confused the entire world, he mixed everybody around. He was very smart. When you conquer a country, ultimately people will rebel against you, because there's patriotism. I like my country. So what did he do? As soon as he conquered a country, let's say he conquered Spain, he took all the Spaniards and he moved them to South Africa. When he conquered South Africa, he took all the people from there and he threw them into Australia, wherever it is. When a person is not in his own birthplace, he doesn't have any association with the country, the new country that he's in, he's not going to come to rebel against him. So since Sancheriv already confused the whole world, Mimele, this is not Mitzrayim that the Torah discusses. The Egyptians of today are not the Egyptians that the Torah discusses, and therefore there's no issue to live there. The only problem with this, asks the Birkas Aaron and the Shoel Meshiv, has nothing to do with the people. It has to do with the country. The Torah says don't live in this country. The Torah didn't say don't associate with the Egyptians. But because of this question, they write that maybe really the issue is not to mix with the Egyptians. And since these are not the original Egyptians, one will be allowed to live there. The Chaim Shal, the Chidah, and the Minchas Chinuch, in fact, bring that there's a machloikes, whether the issue is to live with the Egyptians, and he made it right now, it doesn't apply, or the issue is to live in the place itself, and therefore it doesn't make a difference who is living there, one would not be allowed. Others say, the Radbaz, he says that the Rambam was onus, he was forced to, because he had to take care, he had to treat, he was the doctor of the person in charge of the ruler in Egypt, and therefore he was forced to be stuck there. And the Radbaz himself says about himself that that's something that he got stuck with. He came there to teach Torah you're allowed to, and he says, I open up a yeshiva here, and that's the reason I am relying on in order to continue living in Egypt. That's what the Radbaz says. Sixth answer, Rabbeinu Bechaya, in our Pasha, Rabbeinu Bechaya, big chiddush. He says this issue only applied back then. Back then, the Egyptian, or such an abomination to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they were involved in such disgusting thing, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, stay away from them. But this is an issue l'shah and not l'doyos, and not for generations. Because he says, you see, a lot of people live in Egypt. This is the Rabbeinu Bechaya, 900 years ago. He writes, many people live there. And if it was an issue, the Gedolim would protest against it. So we have 6 different reasons why the Rambam can live in Egypt.
Those who are cholek, are they cholek on just what that he wrote in the letter or on these answers?
They say that he never wrote it. The Kaftom HaPerach says, I heard when I was in Mitzrayim from one of his great-grand-grands, I don't know how many generations of Shmuel, that my grandfather, my great-grandfather, the Rambam, used to sign his letters, Moshe ben Maimon, the one who transgresses 3 Yisurim every single day. And many rejects it. It's impossible. And it's something that people who hated the Rambam said about the Rambam. Not true. Never happened.
But they really lived there.
We know that he lived there. The question, did he sign, the one who transgresses 3 Yisurim Deoraisa every single day? Can it be? So why are you there? Leave. The nafkamina of all this is today. When tomorrow they offer you a great vacation in Cairo, Alexandria, should you go? Can you go? I don't know if you want to go. What's that?
For Pesach.
Pesach. Should you go back there for Pesach? The Yechavet Das in Chelek Gimel Simen Pei Aleph writes, you're allowed to. If you're allowed to go for business, so you're also allowed to go for a short vacation. And therefore there in his Shuvah he writes that he allows reporters to go. Israeli reporters asked him, can we go? There are all kinds of things going on in Egypt. For political reasons, we have to be there to report what's going on, and he allows them to go. So, if they offer you Air Egypt, I don't know what airline they have, to go there, it's a great deal of a lifetime. Technically speaking, you're allowed to. I'm not sure you want to, and I'm not sure that's the best place to go. It could be that Koisel is a little better, but